The flood, the worldwide flood. The flood account in the Bible is supported by evidences outside of the Bible. And let's explore those here today on Justified by Score. Every major culture, every major society in the world, they all have a flood story or a flood account. But just because every major culture or society has something doesn't mean it's right. No, but it is compelling evidence and a good reason to take a deeper look into the authenticity in the historical record according to the Bible. Now, according to the Bible, 4,500 years ago, long time ago, there was a flood. But was it just a regional flood or was it a worldwide flood? If it was only a regional flood, Noah would not have had to build an ark. He could have just taken his family to the top of the tallest mountain. And then he wouldn't even have to, pack up all of the animals either. If it was only a regional flood, how did it kill all of mankind? I don't know. If it was only a regional flood, and God said he would never do it again, then why do we see regional and local floods today? Either it was a regional flood and God is a liar, or the flood covered the entire world. Let's lean on the idea that the Bible is true on this account, and it was a worldwide flood. If it was a worldwide flood, then we should be able to see some evidences around the world that would support this. But do we see that? If the flood did occur, and the ocean waters would have covered even the highest mountains. If this were the case, we would find sea creatures, at least one or two remains on the top of these mountains. The interesting thing is that we not only find sea creatures remains here, but we also find them in a vast magnitude. That is to say, we find many, not only remains, but fossils of sea creatures on the tops of high mountains and high elevations, like the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon in Colorado is nowhere near an ocean, and it is 2,400 feet above sea level. Thousands of sea fossils are found at the top of the Grand Canyon. 2,400 feet not enough for you? Okay, fine. How about the Himalayas? The Himalayas are 23,000 feet above sea level. Thousands of fossils are found here as well. Still not good enough for you? How about 29,000 feet above sea level? Yes, Mount Everest. Even on the top of Mount Everest, we find sea creature fossils. Also, if the flood were true and it did cover the entire world, you would expect to find rapidly buried plants and animals, also with fossils found in the midst of regular activities. And in fact, we find this too. We find fossils of fish eating other fish. We know that didn't take thousands of years for a fish to fossilize, because fish don't take thousands of years to eat another fish. We also find sea creatures fossilized during giving birth. We also find jellyfish fossilized. How do we find that? Because if left to time, jellyfish would not fossilize because it is soft tissue. So the fossilization of jellyfish had to happen because of rapid burial. So the fact that we see these daily activities or these things that we find in the condition in which we find them in places we absolutely do not expect to find those. The only logical explanation is that water did cover these regions at one point in time. And the most likely time that this occurred was during the flood. So if the flood did occur, where did the waters come from? If Genesis 7:11 explains the fountains of the deep burst open, and it is also echoed in Job 38 verse 8, that the waters burst from the deep and from beneath. So the water had to burst through the earth's crust, and it flowed out on top of the land. But is there really enough water to actually make this happen? If the elevated landmass on the earth were flattened and water was not below, but the water was on top of it, it would cover all land mass around the globe by 2.5 kilometers. So yes, it is very possible for water to cover the entire world. The Bible also mentions that there are waters above. Genesis chapter 7 verse 11 says that the windows of heaven opened. And in verse 12 it says the rain poured, or the rain fell down. So the water had to have come from above as well. Side note, I'm not going to cover the Canopy Theory here or go in depth to it, but I do want to mention the Canopy Theory because it does have some validity and evidences. If there was a canopy of ice or water surrounding the Earth's atmosphere, that would also explain why animals may have been larger and also why people lived longer before the flood in contrast to after. The oxygen density would be a lot higher in the pre-flood conditions, allowing for longer life and even larger animals. Okay, so we have a little evidence that water may have covered the entire earth. And we know that there is enough water to do that. But there is no way that Noah got all animals on that ark, right? Ain't no way, right? Well, let's see. Did Noah fit all animal species in the ark? Currently, we account for roughly 8 million species on the earth. That would mean Noah would have to fit over 16 million species if we're talking male and female. But he didn't only take male and female. Scripture says he took 7 pairs of clean, 1 pair of unclean, and 7 pairs of birds, which would drastically increase that number, which would make it impossible to fit all animal species into the ark. Well, maybe God shrunk them, right? Well, the Bible doesn't say that. So I wouldn't draw that conclusion. So is it reasonable to believe that Noah fit all species onto the ark? I'd agree, absolutely not. I would concede that, but Scripture doesn't say that he took every species onto the ark. It says that he took each one according to its own kind. Does kind equate species? No. Moses, when writing this, is not attempting to give a scientific, nor did he consider the terms as we do today. When considering the context, I believe the kind would closer refer to family in the genus order instead of species, because family could still mate together. I don't believe it was species nor genus, but more likely closer to the family when considering how we organize it today. On the species level, there are over 400 dog variations today. Did Noah bring 400 different dog species onto the ark? No. All he would have to do is bring one Canidae. And from that's where we get domestic dogs, wolves, coyotes, and other creatures like that. And since sea creatures didn't need to be taken onto the ark because, hey, they're in water. That also drastically reduces the numbers that are coming onto the ark. If we remove the sea creatures from the list and only load onto the ark the family level, we're only talking about 6,000 animals. 6,000 animals is still a large number, but considering the dimensions of the ark allowed for it to fit inside of it over 500 semi-truck trailers, I think there's plenty of room to fit all of these creatures into the ark. Now, with the physical evidence is provided and the explanations of how many animals were aboard the ark, I believe it is reasonable to believe that the biblical account of this event actually took place. There are other evidences. There are additional evidences that I did not discuss today, like I did not cover geological structures and even the age of coral reefs, but maybe I'll save that for another video or another conversation, or maybe you can go and stick your conversations in the comments and I will respond there. I look forward to you in the comments. And of course, next time, Lord willing, of course, peace and grace.